this idea of resourcing ourselves from a place, awareness, felt sense, and connection to safety in order to then be able to enter into spaces of threat strategically. Sometimes we have to enter these spaces, and what is demanded of us in order to be able to show up there is that we kind of gather and bolstered ourselves so that we are able to hold our shape for long enough in that space that we don't collapse. And I just want to frame that specifically with regards to thinking about vocal expression. And in order for us to prepare and do the work necessary to go into a meeting, actually be physically present, embodied, connected, in touch with, attuned to, energized to the point that we are actually able to represent ourselves, to express ourselves with clarity, with coherence, with a sense of authenticity. There are so many situations in which we need to do that, whether that is in a legal dynamic, in a healthcare space, in a community space, as a parent, as a co-worker, advocating on behalf of someone else. Every day we are asked to be present in spaces of threat, and it should not be underestimated the time, energy, resource, focus, preparation and training that is required of us on multiple strands, multiple levels, to enable us to move into that space in spite of that, and in a way that may bring up challenge, it may create pressure, discomfort, resistance, that there can be a holding of both realities, of a piece that is centered around justice, or a sense of, I need to be able to express myself in this environment. I need to be able to be heard and witnessed in this space. I need to show up today for this. Not because there's an obligation or pressure there, but because it is a matter of our survival, of our ability to thrive, our ability to protect what is near and dear to us, and the infrastructures around us that offer security and stability. Sometimes we need to fight for those things. Sometimes we need to energize ourselves to be in a space which is actually about exposure, and that maybe is not very friendly, maybe is not very supportive. And it isn't easy to move into these spaces. So this visual that comes to mind is, tending to that fire, and doing all of the things necessary from our baseline or construction of what feels good and feels safe to us. And that might involve actually the building of the fire, the ensuring that the hearth is properly set, that we have the right materials to be able to feed the fire, and what are we feeding it with, and are we offering nourishment to that space that will sustain a level of energy and allow us to draw from that and have capacity to enable us to move away from the comfort of that home space, if you like, to then venture out into maybe the unknown, or maybe the known, maybe a space that has previously caused us harm, or been a space that we know and understand is not safe for us. And I think this experience is something that more and more people are being exposed to as we kind of move through the challenging landscape that we find ourselves in. And we know how to do this. We've had to do this from a kind of survival point of view. We wouldn't be here if we hadn't used this approach before. So it's a kind of remembering quality there of in order for this to be something that is sustainable, that will allow me to, maybe physically separate from that, but kind of still carry that energy, that intention, that ability to tune into that space, and to remind myself that that is a space that I can return to, can be very, very helpful in situations where we might feel that we're kind of up against a rock and a hard place. And of course, I think about this all the time through the lens of voice, and even today, an example of this is thinking about, I need to have a conversation, or I need to step into a space of discomfort that I know I need to advocate for myself and to express something that is a need and it's a concern and it relates to safety and it's practical. So there's all these things that are getting fed into your template that you're creating kind of on a subconscious level of, how am I going to navigate this? What are the potential dynamics? How might this be received? And then this cerebral energy that kind of can go into an over analysis, or a kind of, let's try and figure out every possible entry point for this interaction and how it might go, so that you're going through the motions and you're rehearsing, which can be exhausting. But then actually the setup for that dialogue and interaction was able to be initiated with some foundational work that happened first, which would be about stabilizing and grounding and connecting to, like, okay, I feel good right now, I feel secure right now, and I have an awareness that I'm about to move into an interaction that is maybe going to cause some disruption there, or result in me feeling disconnected from that. And there's also this kind of unknown potential. So holding that in awareness, but then choosing to show up from this foundation or energetic template of relatively safe and secure and centered and grounded. The interaction itself went okay, and there was a sense of, even though I had kind of rehearsed this and taken myself through the motions to kind of test and feel into my body, like, how will it feel if I say it in this way? How will I feel if I frame it in that way? Am I going to be secure enough and stable enough in the presentation of that expression to be able to maintain coherence and connection with that other person? And will that message be understood? Will my request be understood? And when you have an awareness of juxtaposition as it relates to anything that is centered around expression, there can be the connection and awareness and felt sense in the body, and tracking that and listening to that and kind of moving with that. But then there also being this outer lens of perception, which is about how does this come across and how does this sound, and is everything aligned in a way that is clear, you know, for the other person to process and digest. So it's not a dissociation, but it is a kind of split focus, where there's the expression through the body, and the connection with the instrument and the understanding of, like, the sensations that are going on and what's happening, but also that part that is checking for connection, coherence, understanding, feedback, looking for social cues, reading body language, and that kind of feeding back into, okay, how's my body responding to that? How am I feeling? What's going on? And this might sound like a lot to comprehend, but these are all processes that are happening involuntarily. These are things that go on. It's when we bring a lens of attention to them and use a language to name them that it can feel like a lot. And in a way, it is quite amazing and humbling to understand that there are all these mechanisms in place that are they are running. So with that being said, it's like, okay, how can I then prepare my instrument so that I can be present whatever comes my way, that I can remain connected and flexible enough to respond appropriately in the container of that interaction and that kind of dance between myself and another person, and like, how can this be something that I can resource myself for beforehand. And what I did notice today was, yeah, maybe the script that I had prepared in my mind didn't flow exactly how I had imagined. Maybe my quality of speech felt a bit more truncated, and that my sense of, is this coherent or not, that was kind of something that I was hyper aware of. So you're kind of bringing in this analytical lens, you know, based on, this is the quality of connection and safety that ideally I would like to feel in my body when I am interacting in this way. And and because you have taken steps to prepare yourself to enter into a felt experience of that prior to this interaction, you then have a marker for the points where the energy is not quite matching that, or there doesn't feel like there is complete alignment. And rather than that being a problem or an issue, something to fix, through a personal development and vocal development lens, this then becomes a way for you to kind of measure against, here's what I know about my communication and my expression and my embodiment when I'm in this good space. And here's the difference in this interaction, which has, you know, been able to show me where there is a gap, where there is some work to be done, where I could actually dedicate some time and energy and focus to, how can we support that? How can we enhance that? How can we bring in a greater sense of stability and safety? And the answer is practice. And because I'm speaking about vocalization and expression in the context of dialogue and shared space and two-way communication, we need to practice that with others. We need to create opportunities for, or be willing to expose ourselves to the unknown and the unpredictable. Someone might not like something you say. Someone might respond or react to your energy and your presence in a way that you cannot necessarily foresee. So there is something to be said from a mindset point of view about it, especially if you know that this is something that is kind of temperamentally or characteristically there for you, about kind of over-analysing or trying to problem solve from like a cognitive position, of actually building in more reflection and check-in points or opportunities for exercises that bring you back into the body, so that you can kind of catch that. You can maybe catch what is maybe a felt anxiety, but then the mind catches that and is like, I kind of want to run with that now, and potentially spirals off into what ifs and what about this. So the more that you are building in opportunities to connect with body, and then to actually recognize those shifts and feelings as they arise, it's like, okay, great, thank you, acknowledge, meet, and not trying to kind of shut it down or put it in a box, but just actually sitting with it and exploring it through the body. And that sometimes is enough to dispel or reduce or soothe that sensation, because it just wants to be acknowledged. It's energy looking for a place to go. So again, coming back to this interaction, and in that moment, in that, live space, it's like sensing like, okay, maybe I'm a bit more stiff, maybe I feel a bit more kind of rigid, and that you're comparing all of these things to your known reference point and your template of, this is how I express and communicate when I feel good, when I feel relaxed, when I feel at ease. And I think when you are sensitive to that, and you're also sensitive to how someone else receives you in that way, that can be a block to connection, because you're kind of trying to do the work of someone else in terms of anticipating, like, oh, they can pick up that I'm a bit tense, or they can pick up that I feel anxious right now. And that is not work that we have to do in that moment, because it isn't our work to do. Our work to do is about supporting ourselves to show up in the way that we feel that we are able to in that moment, to the extent and to the degree that we have capacity to. So it's okay. We're not perfect. We can't show up in this vein of completely composed, completely at peace, at ease, and regulated, if you want to use this word, all the time. We are living inside of an experience that is actually pulling us into different phases and transitions of movement and expression all the time. So there is something to be said for actually coming into right relationship with yourself, where you can honor, acknowledge, and recognize what is occurring for you, and then do the compassionate work of tending to that fire, stoking it with the knowledge that, okay, I have to leave this space of safety that I've created, but I'm going to take an ember with me. I'm going to take this connection or sense of like warmth in my hands, and I'm going to bring that with me inside of my mind, my body, my spirit, my emotional landscape, and I'm going to try to hold on to a piece of that as I go into this interaction, this office, this building, this meeting, where I know that there is something about this place or environment or the culture of that space that doesn't feel warm, and it doesn't feel supportive, and it doesn't feel nourishing, and it doesn't feel particularly safe. But I'm still going to gift myself this little ember to nourish me for the amount of time that I am required to be in that space, with also this sense of understanding and planning and integrating into the way that we are doing this strategically, that we have built in space for rest, for reflection, for integration, for recovery, because we can still be holding something in a way that feels quite soft, whilst also having armoring up and kind of different set of boundaries and a different set of communication tools that we are employing in that moment, because it's very difficult to completely relieve ourselves of defense mechanisms or elements of communication patterns that are actually woven into our cultural framework and reference point. That is another layer of work and another layer of shedding that actually can only begin to happen when the space itself has created opportunities for safe connection and actually has frameworks in place that begin to acknowledge and realize that everybody is coming from a different lived experience perspective of what safety is, and the nuance of that in a kind of cultural context. So until the space has that set in place, of course, it is reasonable and understandable that you're going to have certain patterns and tools and mechanisms, defense mechanisms that you carry with you. But the point is that you are also being supported and resourced and nourished by something that is offering you a tap route into, I know what it means to feel safe even for a moment, and I know that I have the means to return to that. And I just want to bookend this and finish by saying that some of us don't currently have that reference point. Some of us are exploring and reorienting around what it means to even connect with safety. It's kind of like picking up a strange rock that we've never seen before and looking at it, you know, as if we have come from another planet and thinking, what on earth is this? And some people are in that situation. So I think it is something that I'm paraphrasing here, but is such a good point. Like, we can never assume what is going on for someone else in regards to their sense of safety and how that actually translates to the way that they choose to articulate that or not. But we can begin to explore what that means for us personally, and, you know, invest time and energy into trying to nourish that and support that for ourselves, which ergo the conclusion is that hopefully we reach a point of resourcing where we actually have enough capacity to extend that out to others and be invitational to others and say, you know, where are you at, and can I meet you, and maybe even can I help you, or can I help you discover that or find that, access that, reach that, you know, within your context. So I'm taking a lot of reflection and processing from my own lived experience, and acknowledging that, and acknowledging being trauma impacted as something that has hugely shaped my life and the trajectory of my kind of sense of relational safety and how I build relationships, kind of, or have built them going forward. And also in the current practice of using voice work as a personal development tool, something that has been a lifeline for me, having that lens of voice and using that as a kind of measurement, if you like, or barometer to am I expressing the fullness of who I am right now? Do I feel safe enough to do that? And using that as a kind of way of helping guide me through tricky terrain and sort of say, like, this is the area that I need support in right now, or this is the area that I need to focus on. And that's kind of where this 5-element lens has been so helpful, of thinking about the physiological experience, the emotional experience, the psychological experience, the spiritual experience, the social experience, kind of working with all those, and yeah, the current explorations and learning and study, and how that is kind of plugging into and reinforcing curiosity around, you know, what does it mean to explore kind of trauma-informed practice in a way that is tangible and that can be applied into how I explore things in my own life, but then how I explore things in creative sense, in the world of work and research and holding space for others. So as I continue to navigate that and learn more there, it's a live experience, it's a living experience, it's current, it is shifting and changing. Next week, things will have progressed and moved into a different direction, or there will be another layer of comprehension there. So I'm doing the best I can to try and document this in a kind of way that feels accessible, and it kind of just, it feels conversational, just to kind of bring others with me along this process of development and understanding. And this won't be of interest to everyone, but for those of you who are kind of plugging in and engaging with this, yeah, thank you for your interest and your attention. And you know, if there are things that are emerging for you in response to anything that I'm sharing, that are kind of bringing up questions or curiosities about this kind of work, or looking at voice through this kind of lens, or thinking about, you know, how can I resource myself vocally to show up, and what does it mean for me vocally to have a sense of safety, and what does that, do I even know what that is like? And if that is something that you're interested to explore in greater detail, then as ever, the invitation is there for you to reach out to me, and very happy to have a conversation with you about that. Until next time.